Hello, and welcome to the Gaia update for the Saturn Pluto conjunction that happens from January 7th through 14th, 2020. I'm Adrienne Elise. Well, this is an epic conjunction that happens only every 35 years. The last time it happened was in 1982. So here we are at this incredibly powerful time, and I just wanted to talk through some of the themes that are coming forward around this Saturn-Pluto conjunction. So Saturn is at home in its sign of Capricorn. So there's a strong basis energy of Saturn kind of holding down the fort. It's interesting that this Saturn-Pluto conjunction doesn't just happen. Mercury and the Sun are right there during this conjunction. So Mercury and the Sun represent our personal planets that change day to day, our personal everyday life. Our Sun is kind of like our identity, who we think we are. Mercury, our mind, how we're our conceptual reality. So we are getting our minds blown open by this conjunction for sure. So let's see what this is about. So Saturn, the ruler of Capricorn, home in Capricorn. Now Saturn represents the manifested world, its physical reality. Now what goes along with that is the obstructions and the difficulties that come along, like the cumbersome energy of how you get what you want to happen in your dreams and visions into this physical reality, and what needs to change and can then, of course, feel like it's obstructing you as well. So the other thing about the physical reality is that is just that. It's physical and it's temporary. So Saturn rules time and the chronos. It's kind of like Saturn is like a gatekeeper energy at the edge of our cosmos, of our solar system, because it's the last planet that we can see with our eyes, just without a telescope, right? So it represents the gateway of this manifested world, and then the other planets, the transpersonal planets, are out there beyond Saturn. Now, Pluto's way out there, right? And so the Pluto energy, it's almost though with the Saturn conjunction and Mercury and the Sun right there, it's like beaming in this Pluto energy. Now, Pluto is mysterious. Pluto is the ruler of Scorpio. And it's about what's hidden and what needs to be revealed. It also represents our power. It can represent our spiritual, psychic power, our abilities with our higher faculties and our spiritual, intuitive faculties. It also represents, though, our lower ego power and distortions that happen along the spectrum of power in general, meaning insecurities and empowerment. So Pluto is why, this is why Pluto is called the destroyer, because it's got an energy of breaking down old patterns, breaking down personality constructs, breaking down that ego. So here we are at this place where our physical reality, represented by Saturn and the laws and the rules of this world, are getting a massive impulse of energy from Pluto. Now, Pluto is very misunderstood, and Pluto is an influence that is said to be what came through the Edgar Cayce readings is that Pluto is a growing influence over this next couple of 100 years, is getting more and more. So it tells us, and indeed it has been a huge player with the conjunction with Uranus in the 60s, and then in the 2010s, the square with Uranus, that speak to trying to bring in the Aquarian age. So Pluto has an energy of the future, of something we don't quite understand yet, and something really out there. It's interesting that Pluto has been demoted, right? And one of the things that is kind of almost like it's this dissipating energy, and Pluto is somehow less and less powerful, but that is not the case. We don't even really know or understand what Pluto is really about. And it's interesting that Pluto all astrologers know who follow astrology, that Pluto has this huge energy. And yet, it's something you just cannot ignore when you're talking about the planets. And yet Pluto was relatively recently, like demoted, right? It's like, oh no, Pluto, you're not really a planet, And that's at the core an example of the Pluto issues of inflation of power. There's also true power there, but then there's the ego that gets in the way of the true power, and the ego that can destroy the true power and stand in the way of the true power. And so these planets are coming together in Capricorn, and Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn, like we said. So it's got this incredible energy around the structures of our life. Capricorn's an earth sign. And so it rules the structures, the organizational systems of our life. And that's kind of the deal with Saturn and Capricorn energy, is that they like to, people with a big influence of that in their chart, like to have organization, like to have direction, like to have, they have a lot of determination. And so, there's this energy of but Capricorn energy in general has this kind of serious energy, this facing reality, kind of like what's, okay, so there's your dreams and visions, and there's your inspiration, and there's your thoughts, and there's your feelings. But Saturn and Capricorn are like, what's real? But it's interesting because it's so not real, right? We've been part of the whole trap of this illusion that we live in, this Maya illusion, is that we believe the physical is physical. We believe the physical is all there is. We believe the physical is the real world. And that's the message of Saturn. It's like, you better face the real world, right? You better come down to earth and face reality. And it's like, yeah, but this reality isn't actually reality. So how are we going to work that one? Right? And Pluto is kind of coming in with these bigger messages of the future, of mystery, of truth, of expansion, of breaking down, because it's often called that energy of the destroyer, the wrecking ball. So it's breaking down structures that are no longer serving us. And maybe that means it's what we're doing here is a complete different relationship to our physical reality, and a complete different relationship to time, because Saturn rules time. It is the Chronos. It's like that mechanism that keeps us. It's really interesting. I can't quite get a handle on it. We'll see how these concepts evolve as we move through these weeks and year. But I'm kind of seeing Saturn as like Oz behind the curtain, right? And he's got a big, powerful voice. Maybe this is the Saturn Pluto energy together, right? Because it's the power energy. And Oz is behind the curtain, and he's got this big, scary, powerful voice, and everybody just buys into the fact that he must be big and scary and powerful. That's kind of this energy of Saturn and Pluto together. And it's like, yeah, you can't go up against this, right? It has a lot to do with power and authority. Because Capricorn and Saturn rule authority and structures of authority, and Pluto rules power. So it's power structures. And so then when you pull back the curtain on Oz, though, he's just a little silly old man. It's like there's actually nothing there to be scared of or that has any power. It was all a game. And this is kind of the energy I feel like is happening, is we're recognizing Saturn as that gatekeeper to this wider truth of who we are, is holding this illusion and holding this Maya that, and it's like this game that we have to figure out how to get out of. But in order to get out of the game, we got to play the game. And how do you play the game without getting stuck in the game? And maybe that's how we've all gotten here in this wheel of samsara, with this repeating these patterns lifetime after lifetime, right? I mean, Saturn represents karma. Saturn represents those things that are in the way of you moving forward. Now, Saturn also represents, though, an energy that, in that obstacle energy, we don't often, unless we have a little something working against us, like people who don't have any squares in their chart, any like real big tension aspects and stuff, they might have a difficult time actualizing in life and really making some things happen, because those squares energy, which is exactly this manifested world, that's something to work against, right? So Saturn gives us something to kind of go up against, to find our inner strength, to find our ability to move forward. And so Saturn So Saturn rules determination and hard work paying off and focus. So this is actually a positive energy right now, where it's like if you are one of these souls but that's been feeling so disconnected from this world, and that your reality and who you are and your spiritual reality just doesn't seem to fit like a square peg in a round hole. It just doesn't fit. And now maybe this is the changes that can allow you to manifest and bring forward, and in physical form and manifestation, those dreams, visions, the truth of who you are. So there is a very positive energy here. And that is the deal with Saturn and in Capricorn, around like the energy of Saturn. Saturn is a main action planet, but it's not like Mars action planet that just wants to go and make things happen. Saturn is more deliberate. It wants this foundation. It wants to go step by step. It wants to be organized, plan ahead, and, build that foundation for something that can really last, but it does have this like action energy. It wants to plot away. It's a mountain goat. It wants to make it up that mountain one step in front of the other. And so when that type of energy is paired with this ideal energy, which I feel like Pluto's trying to clear the way for us to find, it's like this ideal energy, this wider truth of who we are and what we're doing here. When you can pair that ideal energy and that the spiritual aspirations with the hard work and determination of Saturn and Capricorn, then that could be really quite amazing. But for this conjunction, we're really feeling this hard-hitting reality energy. And but then maybe it's all about showing us that this reality, kind of validating for us that this reality isn't what we thought it was. And that the mask on this game, this physical reality game that we've all bought into, is slipping. And we're having an opportunity. There's like holes in the story. Oz's curtain is like getting frayed. It's not hiding him anymore. And we can see that what was shown to us and presented to us as the big power in this world is a lie. Because the power that we know is money and guns and tanks and violence and fear and terrorism, right? That's what holds the power. And that's been perpetrated very deliberately to keep us in the game, to keep us not even knowing we're playing a game, and to keep us from our own power. See, Pluto also rules our true psychic power that we all have available to us. And especially so many advanced souls on the planet right now, but have no idea what's available to them in their own power structure, because we're so busy having given our power away to what we thought was powerful, right? So there's a lot of energy in this Saturn Pluto conjunction themes around authority contracts. And where have we given our power away? Where did we decide that violence was power? Where did we decide that we could never win against these forces of evil in our world, when actually the light is always stronger? It's so powerful. It's so beautiful. It just lays waste on all of this stuff that we think is so powerful, right? So it feels like we're just in this massive overhaul of our relationship to the physical, our relationship to time, our relationship ultimately to who we really are. Because Saturn is that, like, the guardian of the threshold. And when you go, so it represents kind of like spiritual initiation, and the idea and the story of spiritual initiation. You get closer and closer to spiritual initiation. You go through tests and things, and then you get approval to go to the next level, right? Saturn, that's Saturn. Saturn can, represent these and the kind of the Pluto Saturn together is these powerful entities from past lives where we agreed they were more powerful than us. Our teachers are, these so-called initiate priests. And but we got really tied up in this energy because the souls that I'm talking to that are drawn to this work, you were already full initiates before you came to this earth evolution. So why are you giving your power over to these initiate priests and priestesses to tell you whether or not you can be an initiate? And this is the trap. This is part of that game, right? And so a lot of there's huge energy right now for breaking authority contracts with anywhere we decided there was something outside of ourselves more powerful than who we are, and then opening up to that true psychic power in alignment with our heart and bringing us into this new age, this new era. So part of the Capricorn energy has an energy of testing, like that initiation type thing, right? And are you good enough? And did you make it and it has that feeling of the mountain goat making it up the mountain, just one step in front of the other. And so this is a period of testing. And it's kind of, I think it might be helpful to go into this period of time understanding that, and to be extra vigilant, because those authority contracts, those weird play games that you didn't know you were playing in order to survive, that's all going to be on the table. So if we are vigilant and we're paying attention, we're going to be able to know our next move, which might be the move that shows us we're in a game, that shows us how to get out of the game. And so it's just a really important time to be serious, to know we're being tested. But it's like, why would we go through the testing period if we weren't going into a new level of initiation, right? So knowing that it's a testing period, and then knowing that that testing period is a preparation for the new energies and the new chapter ahead. And part of the reason for that is it's very clearly being shown to us. This theme is that Uranus, the ruler of Aquarius, is in Taurus and turning direct on the day of the partial lunar eclipse. So in these 8 days of time when Saturn and Pluto are in exact conjunction, right in the center of that is a partial lunar eclipse completing, bringing, it has ties to that total solar eclipse that happened on Christmas night in the US and the day after Christmas in the rest of the world. And so it's just like, wow, the way the planets are lining up and the energies are lining up for us right now is just so, it is a time to pay attention and be serious, but we want to be serious about getting out of the game and serious about the lies and the delusions we bought into about our physical reality, so we can experience something greater and wider and bigger and more true. And so Uranus and Taurus is about like bringing these new spiritual vibration energies into the physical. And maybe that's a powerful energy for us with this Pluto-Saturn conjunction, because it's like these worlds colliding, and it's like our physical reality is getting an upgrade. And what's the upgrade? The upgrade's a breakdown of those authority structures, of those beliefs, of those, all the structures of our lives are up for review, wherever it's become distorted in an energy of power. And so huge opportunity to take our power back, ultimately. And so this partial lunar eclipse is so intense because on that day, Uranus turns direct. That means Uranus is moving into new territory. It's like, yes, new energy is ahead, you guys. This is about what's coming. It's about where we're going. It's not about this, like, don't get attached to the serious and intensity of this time. We just chalk it up to the fact that we've got 5 planets in Capricorn, and it's just intense. But that intensity could be the key we need to get in the lock to unlock the game, and so just like a vigilance of paying attention so that you can get those clues about how you individually can break out of these chains. Now, we're really helped along with this energy because this week of Saturn and Pluto together is also, we also have Mars in a very sweet trine with Chiron. This is coming after 6 weeks of Chiron and square with other planets, and so much tension around the wounds that we have and the pain that we have around ourself, who we really are. Aries rules the self and our true identity. Aries wants to fight for their permission to be who they really are. And so this the wounds we're talking about with Chiron and Aries is where you pretended to be something you're not, right? Like you pretended to be just a physical being because that's all you could do because everybody around you said, this is what we're doing here. And you're like, yeah, but, and they're like, you're kind of crazy. That doesn't matter. You know, that spiritual side, your spiritual quest, right? And so Mars in Sagittarius is the ruler of Aries. And so a very powerful energy here with this trine saying, we can do this. We can heal these wounds. But the way we do it is through empowering the self. And there's a sweet energy of Mars as the ruler of Aries and the Aries energy being playful and fun, you know, and so maybe it's like, yeah, we are pretty stuck in a game. The game has been kind of like a really bad nightmare at times and throughout these past lives, but can we play our way out of it? You know, can we recognize that big old scary Oz and those obstruction energies, the authority energies coming after us are just that. They're just a figment, you know, it's something, it's an image being presented to us. And what if this whole reality is just an image that's been programmed, you know, and we got to figure out our way out of it. And so, just an incredibly potent time. And with Mars trine Chiron, it's a great time to drop all those old stories. This is also being helped along incredibly by Jupiter in exact conjunction with the South Node at the same time of the Saturn Pluto conjunction. So Jupiter with the South Node of the moon is our past karma, what's holding us back from the past. And so Jupiter brings light and expansion and revelation and wider perspective. And so with that, with Mars trine Chiron, it's like, drop the chains, drop it. Now you see who you are. And once you've seen who you really are, you can't go back into that prison. You can try, might be kind of comfortable for a little while. And so here we are. It's a massive crossroads where we are being shown very deliberately that we cannot take these old stories with us, and yet so much support for dropping them. And a really cool thing about this week, this Saturn Pluto conjunction, is that Venus is in Aquarius at the very same degrees as the sun, you know, the sun, Mercury getting close into Saturn and Pluto, and then they come all together. And at that same time, Venus is one sign over in Aquarius, which is a semi-sextile at those exact degrees. So an exact 30-degree separation between Venus and all of these planets, the sun, Mercury, Saturn, and Pluto. And so Venus is informing this and telling us, as Venus is already in Aquarius, it's like, hey, you guys, I see it from the other side. And semi-sextiles have an energy of working together to figure things out. And so from the perspective that Venus has right now, she knows we're moving into new energy, and she knows it's going to be okay. And so she's saying, hey, you guys, keep that bigger perspective. You know, know that, yes, we're being tested, but something else is around the corner. So why not take the test? Why not take the test to realize that you didn't even want to be in the system? You know, it's like, so what we're figuring out. It's like, oh, here's this test and you better pass it to be able to move forward. And it's like, yeah, but wait, I was already forward before I even came here in this earth evolution, these souls that I'm speaking to. So maybe that can help. It's like, okay, we're in a testing period, but the test is about, can you be who you really are? Because if you're who you really are, and you remember who you really are, and you're willing to treat that as sacred and hold who you really are as sacred and empower that part of yourself, that's your spiritual quest. That's your greater spiritual purpose. That's the bigger, wider truth of who you are, not this confining reality, right? That's what gets you out of the game, is being willing to respect your divine gifts and your light and hold it sacred and have boundaries. Capricorn has a big energy around boundaries. You know, it is that boundary of our manifested world. And of course, boundaries can be cages. But when we have personal boundaries, that can really help us be contain our light and to really do what we're here to do. As long as we're leaking it out to everybody else, then we're never going to be able to get our shit together, you know? And so it's a time for boundaries, and it's a time to break through chains. And it's all happening right now. So very, very potent and powerful time. I just want to get this message out to you, and keep an eye out for daily updates around this Saturn Pluto conjunction, this epic astrology that here we are in together, and we'll have to figure out what this might all mean for us in these weeks and this year ahead. So thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the journey, and I hope you have a wonderful and empowering January 2020, and we'll see you on the other side. Until then, I'm Adrienne Elise. Namaste.